KBLA Talk 1580, we believe that caring for the community means caring about the climate. You might have heard that we announced a pretty bold 12-month, $2 million campaign to do 4 things. Increase climate literacy, turn up the volume on communities of color in the climate conversation, connect everyday people with the resources they need to survive and thrive, and highlight frontline climate justice crusaders of color throughout this year. KBLA Talk 1580 will be bringing you insightful interviews on all of our shows to help raise your climate IQ. Each quarter this year, we will also be hosting free climate events in various communities throughout the city with food, fun, and forward-thinking conversations. Thanks to partners like LADWP, Metro, Caltrans, the Sierra Club, the California Community Foundation, the California Endowment, AQMD, MWD, and more. You'll also be hearing more about a couple of national town halls broadcasting live from Los Angeles, to which you will be invited. And we'll be rolling out a robust social media campaign on all our platforms, as well as an outdoor media campaign, all designed to educate, enlighten, and empower you in our fight for climate justice.
We want cleaner air.
Caring about the community means caring about the climate. At KBLA Talk 1580, we believe that we really can change the world if we care enough. If we care enough. We care enough. We care enough.
Chaka Khan, Chaka Khan, Chaka Khan, Chaka Khan, Chaka Khan, let me rock it, Chaka Khan. Let me rock it, that's all I wanna do. Chaka Khan, let me rock it, Chaka Khan. Let me rock it, got a feel for you. Chaka Khan, what you tell me what you wanna do? Do you feel for me the way I feel for you? Chaka Khan, let me tell you what I wanna do. I wanna love you, wanna hug you, wanna squeeze you too. But let me take it in my arms, let me feel you with my charm, Chaka. Cause you know that I'm the one to keep you warm, Chaka. I make it more than just a physical dream. I wanna rock you, Chaka, baby, cause you make me wanna scream. Let me rock it, rock it.
Welcome in. Happy Thursday. You are locked in to RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580. This, of course, is the show where we hit all the trending topics across entertainment, sports, lifestyle, and culture. I hope you are comfortable, relaxed, and ready to get into the evening's trending topics. Before we do, make sure that you are following us on social media. Hit us up, KBLA 1580. Of course, I'm at Stiletto Jill everywhere. So hit us up, say hello. Let us know how you're doing. Of course, if at some point during tonight's show you want to add your commentary to the mix, give us a call, 800-920-1580, 800-920-1580. And if you want to add the visual to this audio experience, we are on YouTube. Come check us out there. The chat is always lively. That is like, a whole separate show within the show. So if you have time, check us out there. So let me give you a rundown on what we're going to get into tonight. So we talked about Wendy Williams' new documentary that is coming this weekend, actually. And with it, there's been some more clips released, and we now know the source of Wendy's current illness. So we're going to get into that, plus a suit that has been launched in response to, we believe, the documentary. We're unsure. We'll talk about that. We're also going to get into TLC's Chili. Someone left a comment on she and boyfriend Matthew Lawrence Instagram post and said Matthew has gotten into the chocolate and hasn't let go or something like that. And Chili corrected the person and said caramel. And so now it started a debate, and people feel like, Chili might not be accepting her blackness. I don't know why, but we're going to talk about it and, why this stuff seems to be coming up again so much in the cultural vibrancy when we're in an era where we're loving us in every space. We're going to talk about that. We're also going to get into Tyler Perry. He had an $800 million expansion planned for his studios in Atlanta, but now he's putting it on hold based off of some things that he's seen recently with regards to AI, artificial intelligence. So we're going to get into that, plus a whole lot more, a whole lot more other trending topics. But before we get started and into all of that, of course, I have a couple of conversation starters for you. These are things, topics that we don't have the time to get fully into, but we're going to talk about a little bit. First up, LA is getting its 12th area code. Welcome to the 738. Coming this November, there will be a new area code in the mix in Los Angeles, and it is 738. It's going to be primarily in the downtown LA area, Beverly Hills, Commerce, maybe a little Inglewood, Montebello. As I said, it's our 12th one. We started originally back in the day in the 80s where there was just 213 for everywhere, the Valley, everything across. And then the Valley got 818. Then a couple of years later, I think in 90, that's when 310 was added to the mix. And a few years after that, maybe around 98, 99, 323 was brought in for 213. And then since then, we've had 424, 661. So many, can't keep count. Well, number 12. So, check and see if you're part of the mix. Of course, we mentioned the other day that Jeezy's Tiny Desk was dropping, and it did. He performed Standing Ovation, Air Forces, Bottom of the Map, and then what? Go Crazy and everything. But a lot of people felt like the crowd that was brought in to watch the show was probably too young to appreciate the greatness that they saw on hand there because they weren't as hyped as people would have expected for the performance. So, Andy, you look like you have some commentary on that.
First off, are the Tiny Desk crowd ever hyped?
I mean, they were for Juvenile, I feel like.
Okay.
They were involved, what was it, Usher with watch this, watch this. I mean, so there have been moments, yeah.
I did watch the Jeezy Tiny Desk, and I felt like when they panned the to the audience, they looked like business folk or whatnot.
It probably was people, maybe on their lunch break, people in the office, a little reserved. We wanted to see people that were, maybe a little more fans of the music.
And I got to be honest, it wasn't one of my favorite Tiny Desk performances.
Okay.
And I don't know. I think a lot of it had to do with the instruments.
Oh, you didn't like the instrumentation?
I don't think they did his production justice. Okay. Now, I don't know if that's the fault of the musicians or just Jeezy had unique production. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if the musicians they didn't do the music justice.
Something felt missing.
I didn't feel because those songs that he performed are heartfelt songs. Just wasn't feeling it like that.
Okay. Well, when we come forward, we're going to get into more trending topics and headlines. We're going to get into that Wendy story, plus a couple of other things. I do have some facts to back up something I said the other day. We'll talk about that on the other side. All of that and more, you're locked into RSVP with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580.
Infusing a sense of fun and entertainment in every episode. You're listening to RSVP with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580.
More when we come forward.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we do Black history every single day. In fact, as the only Black talk radio station west of the Mississippi, we are Black history. Our annual Black History Month luncheon is fast approaching, and we want to be sure to give you ample time to get your company, organization, church, or group to join us at this year's celebration on the last day of the month, Thursday, February 29th at noon. Last year, we honored iconic local Black media personalities, including Pat Harvey, Jim Hill, Mark Brown, Beverly White, Sandy Banks, and Pat Prescott, and raised $20,000 in scholarships. This year, we're honoring Black Hollywood creatives who have used their artistic genius as climate justice champions. At At this year's luncheon, we will be showcasing and sharing their inspiring work on our big screen. Plus, a scrumptious meal, live music, great company, and lots of fun with your favorite KBLA Talk 1580 hosts. So contact us today at info@smileyAudiomedia.com or call 323-290-4690. That's info@smileyAudiomedia.com or call 323-290-4690. We hope to see you Thursday, February 29th as we close out Black History Month. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Febreze.
So my home is also my office, and before I can focus, every room's gotta be clean. That means tidying up, then spraying my Febreze Air Mist. Ooh, that's fresh. Febreze Air Mist scents are all high quality. They fight any weird funk, and they give my air an instant boost of freshness. So not only does my home smell good, I feel good too. After I Febreze, it's time to start my day.
Breathe happy, Febreze. La 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 la.
KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 believes in community empowerment. LA's 99 neighborhood councils form the grassroots level of the Los Angeles city government. The system was created to connect LA's diverse communities to City Hall. While neighborhood council board members are volunteers, they are also public officials elected to office by the members of their community. Neighborhood councils advocate on issues like homelessness, housing, land use, emergency preparedness, public safety, parks, transportation, and sustainability. They also provide local expertise on the delivery of city services to their various communities. Neighborhood councils are open to participation by anyone who is a part of the fabric of daily life in said community. This includes those who live, work, or own property or a business. If you are interested in stepping up to join your local neighborhood council, visit www.empowerla.org. That's empowerla.org. It's time to think globally, but act locally. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Keeping you informed, entertained, and always ahead of the curve. This is RSVP with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580.
You were locked in to RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580. Okay, so before I get to the Wendy news, we have to do some Jill was right news, or just, validated slightly. So the other night when we were talking about the NBA All-Star Game, I mentioned how I thought part of the problem, even though, hey, the ratings came in, and I think that they did okay for the past couple of years, but still far less than the NBA's peak as far as All-Stars 2003. And I mentioned that they were in smaller markets, Cleveland, Indianapolis, Utah, the last 3 games. Well, recently it's been released that the NBA has upped its requirements on what it takes for a city to host an all-star game, which effectively puts a lot of those smaller market teams out of the mix with these new rules. So first up, needs to have 7,250 hotel rooms and a minimum of 3 5-star hotels. A convention center that has 650,000 square feet of exhibition space, because you have the whole, what is the NBA thing that comes there during the fan thing that's called, right? And also 75 nonstop domestic flights and at least 20 international flights, because it is an international game and there is a lot of press there, a lot of people that are flying in from all over, sponsors, talent, etc. So, the next 2 All-Stars that are coming up, one is in San Francisco, the other in LA. So, and of course, I believe that we will see a return to Vegas. I think the weekend will look a little different, and I think there'll be more enthusiasm and excitement in cities that at least there'll be more to look forward to. The partying is good before they go off to vacation. Andy doesn't believe it. He's doubting it. We will have to see. Also, and this is random news, and Jill was incorrect or kind of wrong. I kept trying to figure out how to pronounce Beyonce's hair care line. I was confused, and I kept looking at it, and it just hit me the other day because for whatever reason, I kept ignoring the accent mark. And it's sacred, right? sacred. That's what it is. And I feel really delayed that I didn't figure that out sooner. So, shout out to the launch of Sacred. It is officially available online today. Let me know if any of you check it out and try it and what your thoughts are. I am curious to hear. Okay, so let's talk Wendy Williams. We know Wendy Williams was the queen of daytime, the queen of radio at one point, and she has a Lifetime docuseries that is dropping on Saturday, I believe at least part 1. And initially, when this docuseries was being put together, it was to illustrate Wendy's comeback. But so the story goes, as they were filming, it became more and more clear that there was a lot more happening with Wendy in reference to her health and other things. And then Wells Fargo came in and put the freeze on her accounts. And now we know that there's an executor or a conservatorship or something of that nature where Wendy is not in control of her finances and someone else is, but it's kind of shrouded in mystery. And it's also not a family member. So it's cause for concern. Well, we now know what is going on, at least with her health wise, from these clips. But let's talk a little bit about the scene that was revealed with Wendy and Black China. We know that Wendy always had a soft spot for Black China as she was going through her issues and advised her. And now Black China is being there for her. And it's really heartbreaking to hear Wendy talk about her situation and the fact that she wasn't even initially told what was going on with her health wise. So let's take a listen.
I recently been changing my life since, we last spoke. You've always been honest with me and put me in my place.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In the most motherly, kind way. That's why I love you so much. Because even when I was going through my darkest times, you never used that against me. You know what I mean? And that's how you know that the love is genuine and it's always gonna be there. And I'm always be here for you, straight up. You can call my phone whenever. I'm so serious. And I think I'm gonna be back and forth from New York, so I'm gonna be coming to see you more.
Well, my real name is Wendy Hunter.
Hunter.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm divorced.
Yes.
He's got no money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love you.
So do I.
Yeah.
So you can see that was, well, you can hear that was a pretty emotional scene. And in it, Wendy sort of was bearing all, but some of this things that China already knew. Well, her team has revealed she was diagnosed with primary progressive aphasia and frontotemporal, dementia. And she's undergone what they have deemed a battery of medical tests, and she was diagnosed with both conditions in 2023. So aphasia is a disorder basically that impacts communication, speech, the written ability as well, and the ability to understand and comprehend language. Frontotemporal dementia is a progressive condition and it affects cognitive functions. So that will be changes in behavior, which are some of the things that we've seen, speech, disposition, personality. Both conditions have presented, as her team puts, significant hurdles in her life, right? So it comes just 2 days, obviously, as we mentioned, before the shows that are going to be airing this weekend, the Lifetime documentaries, Where's Wendy Williams? Here's the thing. In addition to that information being released and dropping, there's a woman named Sabrina Morrissey, and she is acting in the capacity as Wendy's temporary guardian, and she's filed suit against A&E Networks, but it's sealed. So we won't know exactly the details of the case or why she's filing suit against them. TMZ obtained some of the documents, and logically, with the docu-series dropping on Saturday, at least part 1, we can assume, but we don't know for fact, that it probably has something to do with that. So they're seeking an injunction as well as a temporary restraining order. So that's pretty heady stuff. So what I would imagine is that they don't want the documentary to air. The thing that is kind of strange, I assume the judge understands, is that he's ordered all the documents to remain under temporary seal, but the hearing isn't set until next week. Obviously, part 1 airs Saturday night. So we'll have to see how it all plays out, but clearly, there's a lot happening with Wendy, and we hope that it all comes together for her. Her family is very concerned, according to reports. So they have said since her show ended in 2021, she's been on a downward spiral. And they are supposedly very, very concerned that they're going to get that call one day. And they started filming this docuseries in August of 2022, so not too long after the show was canceled. And as I mentioned, they started to see some of her struggles bear out as they were working through that process. And initially, they said that, they thought most of the struggles were due to her marriage, to Kevin ending, and the things that he had done with that and the show, but then other things started to present. Um, Wendy was placed under guardianship in 2022, and things have gotten worse. She had to check into rehab. Allegedly, the film crew caught her at one point passed out with her eyes rolled back in her head. And her family has been working with the guardian as best as they can to ensure her safety. But they said when she enters back into rehab, then they can't have direct contact with her. She is allowed to call out and phone them, but they aren't allowed to call her. And if she does not reach out to them or isn't in a position to do so, they have no idea what her health is currently or in that given moment. So, one, it is very curious to me how the bank can dictate who has control of her as far as a caregiver. That is very, very strange to me. And I'm curious as to if there are some legal documents that Wendy had before all of this happened that laid out if something were to, happen to her as far as limiting her mental capacity, who would take control. I also wonder if her family not uniquely, if her family feels that she is in fact being manipulated by the bank or these entities, or that they are wrongly in control of her as far as her life and care goes. Why haven't they moved for some sort of legal action? I mean, I would think part of that might potentially be the amount of money it perhaps would take, but I'm just curious if they say these people are keeping us from our family member and they are not acting in our family member's best interest, then why is it that they are not making any moves to correct that? Again, perhaps there's something behind the scenes and they don't want to let on yet, but they've done interviews and it doesn't appear, at least at this point, that that is something that they're interested in pursuing. So I'm just curious if the situation is as dire as far as who is caring for her and whether that is appropriate or not. Why aren't they doing more, especially if they feel like they could get a call any day now regarding her health? I'm just curious as to how we kind of end up in that place. So, we are praying for Wendy. We really hope. I know people feel like, oh, sure, Wendy is getting what she deserved, but once again, how is it any different from what people are saying in tons of comments across social media? And also, if you think about some of the things that Wendy was slammed for in some of her conversations, some of it, in some way, shape, or form, has borne out to be true. So we will have to see. Again, I will be looking at the documentary on Saturday night. I'm actually, I'm 50-50 on it because I believe it's going to be sad. Just the clips that we've seen, it just seems heartbreaking to see anyone go through something like that where they know that they are slipping away from themselves. And some days you may wake up and not fully be present. I mean, probably the worst thing that one could imagine is not having full faculty of your mind, not being able to suss those things out and just sort of being a prisoner to whatever moves in whatever direction. And you can only hope that there are loving and caring people around you who not only act in your best interest, but are educated to do so. So we will have to see what happens and what is included on Saturday night. I'm sure that a lot of people will be tuned in. So I mentioned Beyonce. She also had a launch party, which was an all-white affair the other night, and Blue was in attendance. Again, if you happen to try the Sacred Line, let us know what you think about it. Okay, there has been a lot of conversation about your guy Stephen A. Smith. Recently, he said that Pat McAfee, doesn't have to be as polished at ESPN as he does because Pat is white and he is black. And Stephen got a lot of pushback from that. People think that he is just being himself and that there are other things that play into that. So we're going to get into a little bit of Stephen A's points and then some of the pushback that says it really has nothing to do with him being white, but more so about the environment with which he came from before he got to ESPN. And I say to that, possibly. However, ... We'll get into all of that on the other side. You were locked into RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580. News and Sports is up next.
RSVP with Jill Munroe is your go-to show for staying in the know. More engaging conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton. Here's the latest on the Black Information Network. The judge in former President Trump's civil fraud case is denying a request from Trump's legal team to delay the enforcement of penalties. The defense team asked for a delay of 30 days to allow for what they call an orderly post-judgment process. In an email posted to the court docket, the judge said Trump's team failed to explain, much less justify, any basis for a stay, adding that he was confident the appellate division would protect his rights. Trump was ordered to pay a $355 million fine plus interest. New York Attorney General Letitia James, who is black, says she'll go after Trump's assets if he can't come up with the money. It looks like Olympic champion gymnast Gabby Douglas won't be making her return to competition just yet. Douglas, who was black, was set to compete at the Winter Cup in Louisville on Saturday, but she withdrew from the competition due to a positive COVID test. Douglas last competed at the 2016 Rio Olympics, where she was on the gold medal winning team. That's the latest. I'm Amber Payton on your home for 24/7 News, the Black Information Network.
Can your roof handle extreme weather? If you have leaks or a roof that is 20 years old or more, go to localroofs.com to schedule a free roof checkup and estimate. Get a new roof for as low as $198 per month on approved credit. Restrictions apply. Go to localroofs.com.
Climate is king.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we believe that caring for the community means caring about the climate. You might have heard that we announced a pretty bold 12-month, $2 million campaign to do 4 things. Increase climate literacy, turn up the volume on communities of color in the climate conversation, connect everyday people with the resources they need to survive and thrive, and highlight frontline climate justice crusaders of color throughout this year. KBLA Talk 1580 will be bringing you insightful interviews on all of our shows to help raise your climate IQ. Each quarter this year, we will also be hosting free climate events in various communities throughout the city with food, fun, and forward-thinking conversations. Thanks to partners like LADWP, Metro, Caltrans, the Sierra Club, the California Community Foundation, the California Endowment, AQMD, MWD, and more. You'll also be hearing more about a couple of national town halls broadcasting live from Los Angeles, to which you will be invited. And we'll be rolling out a robust social media campaign on all our platforms, as well as an outdoor media campaign, all designed to educate, enlighten, and empower you in our fight for climate justice.
We want cleaner air.
Caring about the community means caring about the climate. At KBLA Talk 1580, we believe that we really can change the world. If we care enough.
JP Morgan Chase is building on the investments in California to help close the racial wealth gap and build a more equitable future. Visit jpmorganchase.com/racial equity and get the tools to help reach your financial goals.
Linking social justice and climate justice all year long.
We're unapologetically progressive.
KBLA Talk 1580.
My ride smells just right, just right, just right, just right.
Y'all gotta try that Febreze car.
Just right, just right, just right. Yeah. La 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 la. With up to 40 days of consistency. On low Febreze car clips right on your vent. You know my car's my happy place. Keep that smile on my face. When it smells just right, just right, just right. Yeah. Breathe happy Febreze. La 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 la.
Watch out! You got me!
The galaxy is safe once again.
In the pretend universe, kids play with pretend guns. In the real world, it's up to us to make sure they don't get their hands on a real gun. If you have a gun in the house, keep it locked, unloaded, and stored separately from ammunition. Safe gun storage saves lives. Learn how to make your home safer at endfamilyfire.org. That's endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by End Family Fire, Brady, and the Ad Council.
eBay Motors is here for the ride. Go ahead, feel your engine. Admire that perfectly installed exhaust. Your vehicle's moving along this freeway like it was made from fresh installs and a whole lot of love. With eBay Motors, you get over 122 million parts to keep it running. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, they'll be the perfect fit every time. Plus, at these prices, well, we're burning rubber, not cash. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
Hey, I have a secret. I use Secret Whole Body Deodorant because more than just my armpits stink.
Oh, can I use it where my bra rubs under my...
Oh, yeah.
And what about down there? You know, my...
Totally. 4 out of 5 gynecologists would recommend it. So I tried it, and now I get 72 hours of freshness. From my pits to my...
Ooh, I love that it's a spray.
Me too. And it comes in sticks and creams, too. Go get your Secret Whole Body Deodorant.
If you're looking for the most epic place on Earth, let's start at the base of a massive waterfall. Then trek through the thick jungle. Then climb to the peak of a snowy mountaintop. Then once you get there, keep going. Because with intelligent 4x4 and 7 drive modes and a Nissan Pathfinder, the search is the real adventure.
Available feature. Intelligent 4x4 cannot prevent collisions or provide enhanced traction in all conditions. Always monitor traffic and weather conditions.
Curating the most compelling stories and delivering them straight to your ears. You're listening to RSVP with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580.
Look me in the eye, I'm taking it slow. Never running high when I got down low. I can go for miles, water lets me go. I'm if you're feeling like you fly me there. Slowly getting lost when you do not care. Singing to the stars as you pull my hair.
Love when you forget about your low mood. I'm a one to start to make you feel good. Trouble in your body as a prelude. Love when you forget about your low mood. I'm a one to start to make you feel good. Let me taste your body like it's soul food. The tide is high. You don't need to tell me nothing, girl, just turn up the light. I might need a regulator when I go for the dive. The desire made you switch to your most primitive mind. No sin, no sin. Call it meditation when we both unravel within. Feel the calm before the storm as it's my tongue on your skin. In between your breathing, I can hit the drop of a pin.
Welcome back in to RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580. Andy, you have to put me up on game because I don't know. I think I have an idea in my mind, but I don't believe it's right. So
The name of the song is called South by Galimatias.
yeah, I had no clue.
It's one of them B cuts, you know what I'm saying? It popped up in my playlist, and I was like, it's a cool little vibe.
It's a nice vibe. We
Yeah.
like it. Heading into the weekend. I appreciate that. Thank you. New music alert. Is it new?
2018 it dropped.
Okay. Well,
It was kind of new to me though, yeah.
New to me. So therefore, new. And probably new to some of you too. Appreciate you, Andy. So before we came forward, we were discussing Stephen A. Smith. And recently he commented while he was on a podcast interview and said that Pat McAfee doesn't have to be as polished at ESPN because he's white. And Stephen A. has got a lot of pushback. People feel like, oh, is he pocket watching? He's jealous, da-da-da-da-da-da. But he kind of clarified, well, these are his initial statements. He said, I love Pat McAfee, love him to death. I love his swag. I love the fact that he's honest. He doesn't give a stuff. That's my kind of dude. That works for me. Now, is he as polished politically as me? Nope. Because he has no desire to be number one. And number two, if we're being honest, he's white and I'm black. He doesn't have to be. I had to be. So I get all that. I'm not knocking him for it. But people are pushing back on that. And I don't understand why, as if they don't know where we are and the type of country we live in. Andy?
I just want to know the race of the individuals that's pushing back. Because if they're black and they're pushing back, do you not understand what he was saying?
Listen, they are. Some of them. One of the comments I saw said that they feel like it is because he came from the YouTube space and that was a different type of show. It wasn't him coming to ESPN and them having to find a show to fit him into. They licensed or whatever, however they've structured the deal, his show and his content the way that it was and are bringing it to their airwaves. So it was already established in that format. And I understand that, right? They did know this is what we're signing up to get. But by that same token, to your point and mine, come on now. If it hadn't become in vogue, if it hadn't been popularized, partially because of what Skip and Stephen A. did with First Take, and the views hadn't shifted from TV to YouTube and podcasts and these other things, no, they would not be bringing a black guy on the airwaves to do that. So the pushback seems a little bogus. What were you going to say, Andy?
Nah, just the pushback is bogus. And for people to say, oh, it started from the YouTube space, if that's the case, then ESPN, why don't you sign Cameron and Mason, let them do their show?
Right.
Exactly. So he's a white boy. Being honest, it's nothing. I'm not, being negative about it. It's what it is. He's a white boy who happens to be cool. You know what I'm saying? He also does a little commentating for WWE as well, too.
Okay.
And he's not even polished there either. You know what I mean? But they love his personality or whatnot. So, it works.
Charisma can take you far.
100%. I'm not. No, I like Pat McAfee too, but I understand where Stephen A. was coming from.
And I also think that, yeah, he is coming from a different space, but the space that he was able to carve, if you go back to his origins, are birthed from Skip and Stephen A. First Take. Part of what made it so, I guess, exciting was, embrace debate. That early morning, we're going to talk our real feelings and go at each other. Stephen A. clarified his remarks on his podcast. He said, I was not talking about Pat McAfee. I was talking about his show. I support him and his show. The more successful they are, the more successful I become. I've said it before and I'll say it again many, many, many times over. Whether he believes it or not, I don't know really. We've never even talked about it. I can tell you this for a fact. One of the greatest things that have ever happened to somebody in my position is Pat McAfee and his show coming to ESPN and them getting paid because you set the market. Some people will say, and they'll call that pocket watching. And he says, you're damn right. We all do, but it's not to lament what somebody else is earning. It's to applaud them and thank them for what they're earning. Because when our turn comes, and I'm not apologizing for that to anybody, he knows what the stage is. And we know Stephen A.'s contract is coming up for renewal soon. And he is the face of ESPN. But we also see what he is doing, building his YouTube channel and branching out and doing all of these other interviews and showing the spicier side to Stephen A. Smith. And I think that is in preparation for, or in addition to, if he has to step out and spread his wings. And let's face it, there is a lot more power in independent media than there was a decade ago. Andy?
I feel like I got mixed views on this situation because I do understand and respect where Stephen A. is coming from. And I understand his contract is kind of, it's coming up. And him being the quote-unquote face of ESPN, them signing Pat McAfee, he might be a little concerned. But
I think it definitely put him on notice and pushed
put him on
him
notice, for sure.
But
there's a part of me that's just like, Stephen A., just do you, man. Do you, because you could tell he feels threatened. Even though you wanted Shannon Sharp, you saw that Cat Williams interview, you keep on bringing it up. Like, there's that insecurity right there. And I kind of want him to just focus on just doing what you do, what made you great. I think he's seeing all these moving parts, and it has him a little shook.
I mean, but here's the thing. Doing what he does, one, do you think he is overexposed or burnt out at ESPN? Because he really is almost on there 24 hours a day.
I mean, he said it several times. Yeah, definitely burnt out. But at the same time, he's always talked about, him being a black man. He feels like he had to assume that role in order to, get to whatever level he's at right now. So I don't know. I don't know what type of leverage he has, but if he can find a way to not work as much and get paid at the same time, I'll tell you this, ESPN is not going to bring the Stephen A. Smith show on there.
Well, and I don't think that he wants them to. I think that he purposely made it outside of the bounds of ESPN for the reason, one, so that he can be himself. Do you remember a few years ago, Stephen A. attempted to have a late night talk show? It didn't go very well. I think he was trying to do something. Might have been, listen, let me Google.
You're not talking about Quite Frankly.
Was Quite Frankly on it? That was his first show,
yeah,
right?
That was in the afternoon.
No, I feel like maybe he talked about it. I think that was a goal of his. He wanted to have one, or he had something for a minute. I feel like
I could see Stephen A. in that space.
And I think that if you look at what he is doing with his podcast, from the set that he has to kind of how he is rolling it, that is something that he is setting himself up for, because the times have finally caught up with the space that he was trying to create in that area. And I think if anyone could do it, he could be the one to do it. But I also think that testing his wings, he's seeing the money that these guys are getting independently. He is seeing the flexibility that they have. It's no secret Stephen A. wants to act more. He wants to get into acting. Before all of these things happened with ESPN probably being sold off for different things, there were talks about potentially moving First Take to the West Coast. But things are different now. I don't know if I believe we might have talked about this. There's no more ESPN studio at LA Live.
Right.
It's gone. It's not there. So things are changing as far as ESPN. We know that they have let go of a lot of staff members. Ryan Clark recently announced of the pivot. He and ESPN could not come to terms with the contract. He didn't say anything wrong about them. Just, they could not agree. And so now he is moving on. But a lot of people who were more closely associated with, the mainstream, the main line, are now taking their talents to the independent side because it is proving to be more lucrative, more flexible, and it's working. So we will have to see what comes of that eventually. Stephen A. did say that, whoa, I lost my spot. Essentially, but basically what he's saying is, y'all know, if I was a white boy out here trying to wild out like that, they would be pulling me back, reining me back in. You're doing we can look at the talent that has been let go for less. Again, not that he wasn't a little outrageous, but not even much. It wasn't even an ESPN thing. Look what they did to Paul Pierce.
Paul Pierce was doing just a little bit.
Well, I mean, he was. Paul Pierce was wilding.
Yeah.
But my point is, he wasn't wilding on ESPN, like their airwaves or their things. It was inappropriate. We know that. When we come forward, we're going to get into more trending topics and headlines. We also have a phone call coming up. All of that and more on the other side. You are locked into RSVP with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580.
Trending topics and the hottest happenings. You're listening to RSVP with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580.
With no fees or minimums and no overdraft fees, banking with Capital One is the easiest decision in the history of decisions. Even easier than choosing Charles Barkley in a pickup game.
We'll take Barkley.
Ha! First pick. Sorry, kids.
Yep, even easier than that. With no fees or minimums and no overdraft fees, is it even a decision?
Okay, here's the plan. Pass me the ball every time.
This is banking reimagined. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com/bank for details. Capital One NA, member FDIC.
KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. Stay Housed LA has the resources you need to know your rights and the legal support to back them up. The COVID-19 pandemic has cost people their jobs and livelihoods. This has left an estimated 1/3 of households not being able to make rent and facing losing their homes. This is a fear no one in our community should have to face. You have rights, though, and Stay Housed LA is here to help. Stay Housed LA is a partnership between the County of Los Angeles, the City of Los Angeles, and local community and legal service providers. Together, they provide tenants with the information and support needed to exercise their rights so they can remain safely in their homes. Find out more about your rights by participating in a virtual tenant workshop. Get the legal assistance you need. Find additional resources in Los Angeles County and the City of Los Angeles. Stay connected to Stay Housed LA County for updates. This and more at stayhousedla.org. Stay connected to Stay Housed LA for updates. This and more at stayhousedla.org. That's stayhousedla.org. Or call their hotline at 213-694-0040. We've got your black with a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
It's game day at Jim's house, and the spread is impressive.
Mike's already done some damage with the hot wings, and now he's dropping back and going deep for another slice of pizza.
I sure hope he brought the Pepto.
Mike knows the Pepto-Bismol provides fast 5-symptom relief from unexpected stomach upsets. He's no rookie.
The way he's throwing back those nachos, he's the GOAT.
Be ready for game day with Pepto-Bismol.
When you have nausea, heartburn, indigestion, upset stomach, diarrhea.
Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
The possibility of lung cancer can be pretty scary, especially if you're one of approximately 8 million current or former smokers at high risk. That's why SaveByTheScan.org wants you to know that now there's a breakthrough low-dose CT scan that can detect lung cancer early, and it only takes 60 seconds. You stop smoking, now start screening. For an easy quiz to see if you're eligible, visit SaveByTheScan.org. It could save your life. SaveByTheScan.org is brought to you by the American Lung Association's Lung Force Initiative and the Ad Council.
Now back to more captivating conversation on RSVP with Jill Munroe.
You were locked into RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580. We have Brother Alfonso coming in from Lakewood, California. How are you?
I'm good. How you doing, Jill?
Amazing. Welcome in.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about Stephen A. Smith. One thing that you touched on that I think Stephen A. is going through right now, I think deep down, he really wants to leave ESPN. But I know his last contract, I think he's getting like $10 million. I don't think there's another place he can go that's going to pay him that amount of money. The other thing is that I think he also wants to be seen as an all-around entertainer, and I think you touched on something earlier about he used to have a little TV show for a while. And when he first started his YouTube channel, he was trying to do topics that were outside of sports, and that really wasn't working. So now he's come back to sports. So I think Stephen A. is kind of in a dilemma about what he really wants to do.
Has he come back to sports? He always discussed sports on there. He just added in the outside topics. And I believe I think he's actually doubling down on that because he has, ex-users, Twitter, or, people submit questions and topics. That's why we're getting so much commentary about what Stephen A. Smith thinks about dating and relationships. That's why we got commentary about him discussing Taraji and those type of things, because he is most definitely on that. Covering the sports topics, sure, but the whole point of it is for him to push into these other areas to show that I got chops everywhere. I can expand. He wants to do a lot of things.
Yeah, I hear that, but one of the things I do when I first tuned into Stephen A. and I saw he had a YouTube channel, I was like, oh, okay, here's more sports. And then for me, and he started talking about these other things where, Jordan's son's dating Pippen's ex-wife, and you go into the comments and people are saying, hey, I don't want to hear this stuff. I came here for sports. So there's a kind of another behind the scenes where it's like, yeah, you see it for one thing, but I think he wants a little bit also of that Shannon's type of
100%
rating as well. And I say that prior to the whole Cat Williams thing, because I'm seeing a lot of people out here really pushing to become something else in the YouTube streets because they realize YouTube is really kind of where it's at now. Nobody's really watching a lot of these TV shows these days. So I think Steven's really trying to see, can I do something else? But it's hard to leave $10 million on the table, and he's not going to get that at Fox or anywhere else. So he's kind of dilemma. And I think, like you said earlier, he's trying to branch out and see, can I create this other platform and build this up if I want to get away from ESPN? Because quite honestly, he's kind of been low-key complaining about ESPN in a way with this latest thing that you discussed.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, Pat McAfee called out the executives at ESPN as well, too. But I think what it is, what Stephen A. is seeing is that there's this level of authenticity that people have on YouTube. And, when you're on the ESPN airways owned by Disney, you can't truly be yourself. And that's probably what it is. You know what I'm saying? He sees Pat McAfee being himself, being able to cuss, being able to wear a tank top and, standing up the whole time and all that. And I think there's a level of freedom there that he wants. And I'm not knocking him. Plus, he's already doing the acting thing on, what is that, General Hospital? Brick?
Yeah, but I mean, he definitely wants to expand. He's talked about it. He wants to take on some other roles, and I think I think that he feels he has very deep and unique feelings on relationships and things like that. He's made it clear he wants to speak about other things. So while there are some people that are probably like, stick to sports, Stephen A., he's not worried about them. He's trying to get the other people that are ancillary and on the outside to come in and be a part of this. If you want Stephen A. to stick to sports, you can watch him Monday through Friday on ESPN. But over here, we're going to spread the jelly a little bit. That's what I believe, at least.
Yeah, I hear you. And I kind of can relate to Stephen A. in a way because, I mean, I've been in the corporate world and I'm going to retire soon. And I have other things that I do to make an income. And I'm kind of tired of the corporate world, but I'm not tired of my money.
Of the check, so, right?
Do it both then.
I'm not that tired of it. So, I'm just, it's like, well, yeah, I'm tired of it, but the check is pretty nice. So, but at the same time, I have other passive income I'm having just to make me feel like I have something else going on to keep me sane.
So, yeah, so we will have to see what develops. I mean, he's going to let us know. One thing that Stephen A. is not is quiet.
I will say this, though.
Oh.
Stephen A., he's mentioned it before. He needs to tap into the wrestling world. I think he would be great. I've heard current wrestlers talk about how they watch First Take. They watch Stephen A.
Wow.
Because, Stephen A., to a degree, is
a showman.
He's a showman. He plays a little bit of a character right there. And I've heard wrestlers behind the scenes talk about how they take stuff from Stephen A. and they utilize it for their character development. So I think that'll be a good look for him. He already has a mouth on him. So why not walk down the ramp with Roman Reigns or something like that? That'd be dope.
I mean, and with The Rock on the board now, and the merging of the XFL and all of these things, it really is a change that is happening. We are going to see a lot of new things in the sports media landscape, media in general, really. Listen, when we come forward, we're going to get into Chili from TLC. People are upset with her personal description of her skin color. They think she might be being anti-Black. We're going to get into that, plus more trending topics and headlines. It is always a lot happening. We're going to get into Damon Dash and what's happening with him, plus a whole lot more. You are locked into RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580. Make sure that you stick right there for hour 2.
Nobody watching on the sunrise. Looking at it for me like the sunrise. Piss up on my tongue, you like a hot spice. All over my body like you want one. All on me like water on the seashore. Let me feel your body, I want you more. The tide is high.